Welcome to A1 Storyteller, your go-to channel for compelling narratives that challenge perceptions, inspire change, and shed light on the complexities of human interactions. If you're passionate about stories that resonate with real-world issues and showcase the triumph of truth over prejudice, you're in the right place. Today we bring you a riveting tale. Karen calls 911 on black woman changing her own Wi-Fi. But what the cops uncover shocks everyone. Let's dive in. Taylor Miles had always been a city dweller. The bustling streets of Atlanta had been her home for over a decade. However, the constant noise, traffic, and fast-paced lifestyle began to wear on her. Seeking tranquility without straying too far from her roots, Taylor discovered Willow Ridge, a serene suburb in Georgia known for its picturesque landscapes and tight-knit community. The move was significant. Taylor, a 33-year-old cybersecurity specialist, had recently secured a promotion at Hybrid Systems, a leading firm specializing in digital defense solutions. The new role allowed her the flexibility to work remotely, making the idea of suburban life even more appealing. Her new townhouse was a dream come true. Nestled at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, it boasted a spacious backyard, perfect for weekend relaxation and perhaps a future garden. The neighborhood seemed welcoming, with children playing on the lawns and neighbors exchanging pleasantries during evening strolls. As she unpacked boxes and arranged furniture, Taylor felt a sense of accomplishment. This was her space, a sanctuary where she could thrive both personally and professionally. The following Saturday morning, with the sun casting a golden hue over Willow Ridge, Taylor decided to set up her home office. Given her profession, a robust and secure internet connection was paramount. She meticulously set up her equipment, a high-speed router, signal boosters, and encrypted servers. To ensure optimal signal strength throughout her home, Taylor took her laptop and router to the backyard. She believed that testing the connection in various spots would help identify any potential dead zones. Lost in her technical world, Taylor was startled by a sharp voice. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" Turning around, she saw a woman standing on the other side of the fence. The woman appeared to be in her late 40s, with short blonde hair styled immaculately. She wore a pastel cardigan and held a small dog on a leash. Her expression was a mix of suspicion and authority. "I'm setting up my Wi-Fi," Taylor responded, trying to keep her tone neutral. "In the backyard, with all those gadgets?" the woman pressed. "Yes," Taylor replied, holding up her router, "just ensuring I have a strong connection throughout the house." The woman's eyes narrowed. "I haven't seen you around before. Do you live here?" "Just moved in a few days ago," Taylor offered, extending a hand. "I'm Taylor." The woman ignored the gesture. "I'm Pam. This neighborhood has always been safe and we intend to keep it that way." Before Taylor could respond, Pam turned on her heel and walked away, her dog trotting beside her. Taylor sighed, hoping this was just an isolated incident. Later that afternoon, as Taylor was finalizing her setup indoors, she noticed flashing blue and red lights reflecting off her living room walls. Peering through the window, she saw two police cruisers parked outside. A knock echoed through her home. Opening the door, Taylor was greeted by two officers. The first, a tall man with a stern expression, introduced himself as Sergeant David Morales. Beside him stood Officer Rain Simmons, a younger black woman whose eyes held a mix of professionalism and empathy. "Ma'am," Sergeant Morales began, "we received a report of suspicious activity at this residence." Taylor's heart raced. "Suspicious activity? I've just been setting up my internet." "May we come in?" Officer Simmons asked gently. "Of course." Taylor stepped aside, allowing them entry. As the officers surveyed the living room, Pam appeared at the doorway. "I told you she was up to something," Pam interjected. "Messing with wires and devices in the backyard, probably trying to hack into our systems." Taylor took a deep breath, striving for composure. "I can assure you, officers, I'm simply setting up my home network. I work in cybersecurity SGT." Morales exchanged a glance with Officer Simmons. "Do you have any identification, ma'am?" "Certainly," Taylor replied, retrieving her driver's license, lease agreement, and work ID from Hybrid Systems. Officer Simmons examined the credentials. Hybrid systems. You're in cybersecurity? Yes, Taylor affirmed. My job requires a secure and efficient home network. Pam scoffed. Sounds convenient. Ignoring the comment, Certain Morales turned to Pam. Ma'am, did you witness any illegal activity? I saw her with devices acting suspiciously, Pam insisted. Setting up personal internet equipment isn't a crime, Officer Simmons noted. Pam's face flushed. I was just looking out for the neighborhood. Certain Morales sighed. We appreciate vigilance, but making unfounded reports can divert resources from real emergencies. Pam opened her mouth to retort, but thought better of it. Turning to Taylor, Officer Simmons offered a small smile. Apologies for the disturbance, Ms. Miles. Welcome to Willow Ridge. Thank you, Taylor replied, relief washing over her. Over the next few days, Taylor couldn't shake the incident. She confided in her friend and colleague Maya during a video call. Sounds like you had a run-in with a classic Karen, Maya remarked. Taylor chuckled humorlessly. I just didn't expect it here. The neighborhood seemed so welcoming. Unfortunately, biases exist everywhere, Maya said. But remember, your presence challenges those prejudices. Determined not to let the incident define her experience in Willow Ridge, Taylor decided to engage more with the community. She attended local events, joined neighborhood groups online, and made an effort to introduce herself to neighbors. Most residents were warm and welcoming, but Pam remained distant, often casting wary glances in Taylor's direction. One evening, as Taylor was walking her dog Luna, she noticed Pam struggling with her own dog, who had slipped out of his collar and was darting toward the street. Without hesitation, Taylor sprang into action, using Luna's leash to secure Pam's dog and prevent a potential accident. Thank you, Pam said, breathless. I didn't see that coming. Glad I could help, Taylor replied, handing the leash back. An awkward silence ensued. I'm sorry for the other day, Pam finally said. I jumped to conclusions. Taylor nodded. I understand the importance of neighborhood safety, but assumptions can be harmful. Pam paused, the tension between them thick. For a moment it looked like she might retreat back into her defensive shell, but something in Taylor's calm expression disarmed her. I suppose I did overreact, Pam admitted. We've had a lot of changes in the neighborhood lately, and I've always been protective of this place. Taylor raised an eyebrow. Protective or possessive? Pam's face colored. Maybe a bit of both. They stood on the sidewalk under the fading amber sky as the hum of cicadas began to rise. The suburban stillness wrapped around them. You know, Taylor began, I've worked with people from all walks of life, military personnel, foreign diplomats, tech specialists from countries I can't even visit. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that safety isn't just about fences and locks. It's about trust. And trust can't exist if you see your neighbor as a threat just because she looks different. Pam looked away, her jaw tightening. I wasn't raised to be racist. No one is, Taylor said gently. But we inherit fears we never unpack. Sometimes it takes real effort to see people clearly. Pam glanced at her. You sound like a teacher. I'm an engineer, Taylor grinned, but I believe in education too. They shared a small, unexpected chuckle. Despite the attempted peace offering, the police report did. A few days later, an internal review at the Willow Ridge Police Department flagged Pam's 911 call. Officer Simmons submitted body cam footage and filed a supplemental report, pointing out the clear racial overtones and false accusations in Pam's statements. Detective Lane, a veteran with a knack for unearthing patterns, started looking into Pam's previous 911 calls, and what he'd discovered was damning. Over the last 24 months, Pam had called emergency services 38 times. 22 calls had been made on Black or Hispanic residents. 11 were completely unfounded. 3 led to brief detainments, but all individuals were later released with no charges. 1 resulted in a civil lawsuit, which was quietly settled by the city. Worse still, Pam had been in communication with a private neighborhood watch group that operated more like a surveillance squad. Mostly white retirees who viewed every unfamiliar face as a potential criminal. Their email threads were littered with coded language and racially biased suspicions. Detective Lane brought the findings to Chief Hollis, who immediately greenlit an internal investigation. The mayor was briefed. The HOA board got wind of it. What started as a routine incident turned into a full-blown scandal. Meanwhile, Taylor was invited to speak on a local podcast about cybersecurity. During the interview, she recounted the incident with grace and professionalism. "I didn't come to Willow Ridge to start trouble," she said. "I came to build a life. But I won't shrink myself to make others comfortable with their biases." The clip of that segment was shared across social media. Within days, her words were being quoted on news channels, blog posts, and local op-eds. The hashtag #WeBelongInWillowRidge began trending. Taylor didn't intend to become a local symbol of resilience, but her refusal to stay silent struck a chord, especially with other professionals of color in predominantly white suburbs. "I'm not trying to teach anyone a lesson," she said in a follow-up interview. "But if my presence makes you question your assumptions, then maybe that's the start of something better." The HOA community hall buzzed with tension. The evening air outside was cool, but inside the large room the air was stifling with anticipation. The folding chairs were filled, black, white, Latino, Asian, young families, retirees, and teens who had come to see justice play out in their own neighborhood. At the front sat the Willow Ridge HOA board. 7 members, all volunteers, but now bearing the weight of serious deliberation. Pam sat off to the side in the second row, back straight, lips pressed into a thin line. Her crisp blouse and expensive handbag looked out of place next to the heavy silence surrounding her. The board president, an elderly gentleman named Mr. Langston, cleared his throat. "Tonight's meeting is an emergency session called following the findings from the Willow Ridge PD and Officer Simmons' report regarding an incident involving a resident, Miles, and an erroneous 911 call made by another resident, Miss Pamela Whitmore." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Pam stood up before being asked. "Excuse me," she began, voice firm, rehearsed. "Before this gets twisted into something it's not, let me make one thing clear. I acted in what I believed was the best interest of our community. I saw suspicious activity, cables, gadgets, unknown individuals." "You mean you saw a black woman with a laptop and assumed she was a hacker?" someone called from the back. Pam froze. A woman stood up. Rosa Garcia, mid-40s, warm but fiery, addressed the board. "This isn't the first time she's done this. My nephew, the one you called the police on last year for skateboarding? You said he looked like he was casing the neighborhood. He was 14, Pam." Another neighbor stood. "She once told my husband he looked out of place because he was washing his car at night after a shift. He's a nurse, he works 12 hours and that was his only free time." And then, an older black man with a strong voice and silver hair stood. "Pam, I was the one you accused of pretending to be a homeowner just because I was installing blinds. I'm a veteran, retired from the Navy, and I've lived here longer than you." The room had turned into a wave of testimonials, each revealing the same pattern: profiling, assumptions, and veiled hostility, all hidden under the guise of concern. Pam's face turned red. "This is a smear campaign. I've given my time to this community. I served on the HOA. I organized holiday events. None of that matters if you poison the well, Pam," said Langston calmly. "We've reviewed the police reports. 38 calls to 911. 22 of them involved people of color. Only one led to an actual charge, and even that was dropped. And now," added another board member, "we're seeing the liability risk you pose to the HOA, misuse of emergency services, discriminatory behavior, and being the cause of escalating racial tension." The final vote wasn't even close. Pam was formally removed from her position as HOA Safety Committee lead. She was also issued a formal warning that any future misuse of emergency services would result in legal action. The city issued her a fine of $1,500. And a lawsuit had already been filed by the family of Rosa's nephew. Pam didn't cry. She stood, chest heaving, jaw clenched, and stormed out of the room to a chorus of silence. Her dog barked outside, the only sound breaking the cold quiet of accountability. The next week, a for sale sign appeared in front of her house. Months had passed since the 911 call. The chaos it stirred had long since quieted, replaced by a different energy, one of reflection, rebuilding, and renewal. Willow Ridge was changing, but this time, not from new paint jobs or front porch renovations, it was changing in consciousness. The HOA board had enacted new guidelines around neighbor disputes, emphasizing mediation before police involvement. A bias unawareness workshop was scheduled quarterly and was mandatory for all volunteers and committee members. Diversity was no longer a talking point, it was an action plan. And Taylor? She had become more than the new girl with the Wi-Fi. She was a community leader, a quiet force who had inspired transformation just by being unshakably herself. It was a bright Saturday morning when Taylor pulled up a folding table in the park. It was the first session of Tech for All, a free workshop she was offering to teach families how to improve online safety, help kids code, and learn how to protect personal data. Kids ran around with laptops and tablets while parents sat in shaded areas listening to Taylor explain concepts like VPNs, firewalls, and digital hygiene. A little girl asked, "Miss Taylor, can you hack the FBI?" Taylor laughed. "No, but I can protect you from someone trying to hack you." Even Officer Simmons stopped by, now off duty and smiling. "Word spreading," she said, watching the lively crowd. "You're turning this place into something real special." Taylor sipped her iced tea and smiled. It always had potential. It just needed a little push. She looked around and saw a mixed group of neighbors laughing, learning, and engaging with each other in ways they hadn't before. The house that Pam once owned now had new occupants, a young interracial couple with 2 toddlers. Taylor had dropped off a welcome basket that week, and they'd already invited her to their first backyard cookout. One evening she sat on her back porch, Luna resting by her feet. The sun dipped behind the trees, turning the sky to a canvas of gold and lavender. She tapped on her tablet. Network diagnostics clean. Her internet speed was high, her firewall solid, her encryption airtight. Everything was secure. But more than that, she was secure. No sideways glances, no whispered suspicions. No patrol cars showing up without cause, just peace, presence, and pride in having stood her ground. Not through rage, but through reason. Not with fists, but with facts. Not by fighting fire with fire, but by shining so brightly that darkness had no place left to hide. And just like that, what began as a hateful call meant to intimidate a black woman became a rallying cry for an entire community to wake up, grow up, and own up. Taylor didn't need to raise her voice or seek revenge. She let the truth speak louder than bias ever could. Because real power isn't in who yells the loudest, but in who stands the tallest when silence would be easier. In a world where racism still hides behind manicured lawns and HOA titles, Taylor proved that dignity, resilience, and brilliance are more than enough to tear down walls built by ignorance. This is A1 Storyteller, where we turn pain into purpose, conflict into change, and every story into a spark that lights a fire in the hearts of millions. If this story moved you, made you angry, made you proud, or made you think, don't just scroll, like, share, subscribe, because these stories matter, these voices matter, and we're just getting started. Until next time, stand tall, speak truth, and stay tuned. The next story might just be your own.